So I finally got around to watching the Christmas episode of How I Met Your Mother, aka How I Met Your Mother Season 2, Episode 11, or, as the title puts it quite aptly, How Lily Stole Christmas. Replace Lily with the other word, and no, I am not talking about Grinch. And you would have a clear idea of what I think Lily Aldrin's problem is in the series, and how, like a lot of the other characters within the show, How I Met Your Mother rewards her for her bullshit. Now, for those of you who do not watch my Bridgerton content and might have missed my explanation in Monday's video, my sincerest apologies for the break I took, especially as it coincided with my promise to have dropped this particular video last Thursday. I decided to be a bit experimental with my food, and my body objected in the only way it knows how, which is proof that just because your mouth indicates that something tastes amazing doesn't mean the rest of your body would be in agreement. I'm feeling much better now and ready to get back into the groove of How I Met Your Mother videos as I make my way through season 2. Thank you so much for your patience, y'all. And for those of you who might just be finding my channel for the first time, hello, I'm Noria. I'm currently going through my first time watch of How I Met Your Mother. And as I'm doing so, I'm making weekly videos where I share my thoughts on the characters and the stories and the episodes. Sometimes I make predictions of where I think the writers might take certain story beats in future episodes. It's all done in good fun, and I do always love when I have certain things confirmed. For example, I did call out much earlier that I believed that Ted was still angry with Lily about how she just up and left Marshall and Ted when she wanted to give her art fellowship in San Francisco ago. I had this thought when I was talking about the Aldrin Justice episode, and having it confirmed in this one absolutely made my day. So yeah, if you would like to join me on this ride, please consider hitting the like button and the subscribe button as well, so you can be notified when I have new videos up, because I talk about a bunch of things, not just How I Met Your Mother. Oh, and like we've been doing of late, if you want to talk about something spoilery beyond the episode, please indicate spoilers ahead at the start of your comment. Put a couple of asterisks so I will have to click read more to actually get to the spoilers bits, and do go all out once you've done so, because I do see how you all love chatting in the comments, so please continue to do so. The floor is yours. Now, what I tend to do with these videos is that I start off with a summary of the happenings of the episode before I then move on to my thoughts. But not to worry, I usually have timestamps put in, so if you just want to skip to the parts with my thoughts, you can do so very much easily. And with that said, for those of you who want to stick with me for the whole thing, let's get on with the synopsis of the episode. How Lily Stole Christmas starts off with Lily, as expected, Ted and Marshall in Ted and Marshall's apartment. It's all done up for Christmas, with the decorations shining brightly and Lily baking holiday cookies, delighted to be back with Marshall for the holidays. Marshall, meanwhile, has a paper due for law school and is headed to school to turn it in. He has his eyes closed, deciding to keep everything as a surprise and a reward for himself when he gets back home. Clearly, Christmas is Marshall's favorite holiday, and we are meant to see just how much he loves it and the entire tradition, and how that is what is his incentive to get his schoolwork done so he can come back and enjoy the holidays with his favorite people. The reason why I am making sure to bring this up is because whilst we as the audience can quite clearly see this, Lily, it would seem, doesn't care. But I will get back to that in a bit. Anyway, Marshall leaves the apartment, leaving behind Ted and Lily to continue with decorating the place. It is at this point that Lily walks in with the disconnected answering machine. Turns out back when Lily and Marshall were broken up, Ted had Marshall take down the machine because Marshall kept getting sad at the thought of Lily not leaving any messages for him on it anymore, which, poor Marshall. However, now that Marshall and Lily are reunited, Ted figures it's a great time to reconnect the machine, and so Lily does so. The first message that comes through is from Ted's dad, informing him of his fishing trip with his good friend Clint, who also happens to be Ted's mother's new boyfriend. But the next message is what stops Lily and Ted in their tracks. It is Ted's message to Marshall, who at the time was still moping in bed due to the breakup. And Ted basically tells Marshall to get out of bed and forget about Lily, the Grinch. Except as Ted tells his kids, he doesn't use the word Grinch. Now, quick side note. Anyone else get thrown off by the fact that How I Met Your Mother refused to simply use the word bitch in this episode? I mean, like, we all know that that is the word. And for a show that has been pretty explicit about Barney's sexcapades, it just feels a bit juvenile that they kept censoring the word bitch and fuck in the episode. That it makes no sense to me. Was it done as a running gag, or is the show really one where the characters don't cuss at all? Because now I have to watch the rest of the seasons to see if truly they censor things so much that 28-year-olds, because that is what age Ted and Barney and Marshall and Lily and Robin are meant to be. So 28-year-olds can't say the word fuck. And before you tell me that it's because it's from the perspective of Ted having a sit-down conversation with his kids, so he doesn't want to curse out in front of them, I will like to once again refer to the fact that we get horny as fuck Barney being told to the kids, but fuck and bitch is where Ted draws the line? I don't think so. Anyway, back to the episode. Lily is appalled that Ted would call her a bitch. And whilst Ted at first tries to deny that he is the one who left the message, he eventually caves and admits to it, pointing out to Lily that technically she was being a bitch when everything went down. Lily, though, reverts back to her teacher persona, which, side note, I personally loathe, and informs Ted that if this were one of her kids, she would have called their parents to report them. Ted is like, yeah, but I am not a kid. And Lily is like, yeah, which means you know what that word means and shouldn't have used it. Ted, however, refuses to budge and even admits that to Robin and Barney, who he meets up with at McLaurin's. Robin is of the opinion that Ted should apologize, even as Ted points out that Lily really did just up and leave and he doesn't see how he was wrong in what he had said. But he does show up at the apartment with a beer in hand, which is how they had apologized to each other back when they were in college. Except when they enter the apartment, it's to find it no longer looking like a winter wonderland. Lily had taken down all the decorations, left the cookies she was baking in the oven, and returned to her apartment in the Bronx like a fucking child. I'm sorry, y'all. The irony of Lily Aldrin constantly yapping about if it was one of my kids that did this, only for her to turn around and act like a child in this scenario just baffles me. Ted, seeing that there is no Lily forthcoming, proceeds to drink the beer and then call Lily as he heads to her apartment because, unlike Marshall's fiancé, he being Ted, remembers that Christmas is Marshall's most important holiday and that his best friend has been looking forward to this. To make matters worse, on his way to Lily's apartment, he gets a call from his mother and her new boyfriend. Turns out that Lily really did do what she does with her kids and had reported Ted's words to his mother, which... She's so lucky that this is a TV show and not reality, because if Lily was my friend in real life and pulled this shit, best believe I am cursing her out and ending that friendship with the quickness. The fuck do you mean you reported me to my mother? What the hell? Anyway, Ted arrives at Lily's apartment where they once again get into an argument. Lily doesn't understand why Ted was so upset, considering that the person whose heart she broke was Marshall, and not only did he forgive her, but their wedding was back on. So what on earth is Ted's problem? Ted points out that while she had apologized to Marshall, she never did apologize to him, as Marshall wasn't the only person she walked out on. She walked out on him too, and he thought they were friends. But Lily refuses to budge, and she still doesn't see what she did wrong. And since she's so insistent on taking away Winter Wonderland from Marshall, Ted, who once again is the only one who remembers Marshall in this entire scenario, decides that so that his best friend could have the Christmas he deserves, he's going to spend the holiday with his very religious cousin Stacy in Staten Island. Also, sorry, quick song break. Gone away is the bluebird, yet to stay is a new bird. We sing a love song as we go along, walking in a winter wonderland. In the middle we will be the snowman, and pretend that it's Captain Brown. He'll say, "Are you married?" We'll say, "No, ma'am, but you can do the job while we're in town." Later on we'll conspire while we dream by the fire. I'm sorry, like, every single time I kept saying Winter Wonderland, my brain was like, "You need to sing the song. You need to sing the song. You need to..." Okay, so I've done that. Let's continue with the video. Marshall, meanwhile, after having had an eventful day where he ended up not submitting his paper, he had asked for an extension instead, and instead helped a delivery driver drop off presents to everyone on the route so that everyone could get their Christmas presents on Christmas Eve. Remember, you all, Christmas is a big deal for Marshall. He ends up back home in time for Lily to have put up all the decorations back up now that Ted is in Staten Island. Marshall gives her her Christmas gift, which Lily opens and is surprised to find an easy bake oven inside. Something she had wanted back when she was a child, but which her feminist mom had refused to give her because she didn't want her to follow gender norms, which this episode was totally written by a man, wasn't it? Because it sounds like something a man would joke about what a feminist would say in that scenario. I mean, I can't be the only one who has that thought, right? Anyway, Lily is shocked to get the gift and is curious about how Marshall knew exactly what she had wanted. Turned out that back when they were just starting college and were all newly friends, Lily and Ted had been smoking weed in the dorms, and she had spilled her guts to him about the gift she had wanted as a child but never gotten. And Ted, when Marshall had expressed his desire to get Lily a meaningful present for their first Christmas back together, remembered Lily's words and told him what he should totally get her. This is what ends up making Lily feel guilty, and she drags Marshall, Robin, and a sick and recovering Barney with her to Staten Island, beer in hand, to not really apologize to Ted, but asks for him to come back home, saying that she's tired of apologies, plus she really had been a bitch. Of course, this word is heard by cousin Stacy's kids, who start repeating it as loudly as they can, whilst Ted and the rest of the gang make their getaway. The end. Of course, there's the part in the episode about Barney being ill and all of that, but that's totally separate. But like I said earlier, there really was that tendril of satisfaction that unfurled like a flower in full bloom for me when Ted full on tells Lily that while she apologized to Marshall, she never did the same to him. I found myself screaming, "Yes, Ted, tell her," at my screen, because let's be real, whilst the wound cut deepest for Marshall, who was the one who was broken up with just before their wedding, it doesn't mean that Ted didn't bear his own scars with Lily walking away as well. Like I've said in a previous video, the milk episode is one where Ted is the first to learn of Lily's desire to go for the art fellowship, and when he tries to convince her to try out art fellowships in New York instead of needing to go all the way to San Francisco, he fails at stopping her from going for the interview. By the time he arrives back home, he asks her if she's interested in trying out the milk, which is code for the art fellowship in San Francisco. And Lily straight up lies to him by telling him no. I mean, there is absolutely no way in the time when she was gone that Ted didn't have this thought, that he had taken her at her word, that she wasn't interested in the fellowship, only for her to not keep her promise and instead go anyway. She lied to him. And I also know that he most likely feels guilty about the situation as well, that he has to sit with the knowledge that he had known of Lily's dissatisfaction way before anyone else, and he had kept it from Marshall. I can just imagine Ted thinking to himself, spinning in circles with the what ifs. If only he had told Marshall, maybe Marshall would have been better prepared for Lily walking away, and his best friend wouldn't have fallen apart the way he did, wouldn't have utterly shattered the way he did. All those feelings and emotions needed an outlet, and when Lily came back and none of that was addressed, I just knew it was only a matter of time until things blew up in their faces. Aldrin Justice was where Ted was already teasing his anger and discontent, but how Lily stole Christmas is when he let it all pour out of him. And the reason why I'm taking the time to mention this is because it speaks to the core of Ted's upset, which makes it even more stark that none of that registers to Lily. Her focus in the entire episode is about Ted calling her a bitch in the voice message, and she uses that anger to try and circumnavigate the rightful anger at her actions that led to Ted having to leave that message on the answering machine in the first place. It's such a clear case of her shirking responsibility, and shows how Lily as a character is someone that doesn't want to see herself or view herself as being in the wrong. Maybe it is tied to her role and persona as a teacher, where she believes that the onus is on her to correct others, but she's never as quick or willing to take that correction or feedback herself, because to her, she is one of the good ones, and so therefore is always in the right. Like, sure, she might have made a mistake and hurt people, but it doesn't justify her being called a bitch in the message, even though her actions directly translate into that. You can imagine that is what is going on in her head. And before anyone comes and says that, well, she did apologize to Ted and came to pick him up from his cousin's apartment with a beer in hand, I would like to ask, did she though? Did she really? Ted opens the door, she offers him the beer, and when he tries apologizing for what he had said, she immediately waves it off and says that she's done with apologizing, which is so baffling to me, because not once in the entire episode does Lily Aldrin actually say the words, I am sorry. Not once. Plus, the only reason she's there is not because she feels guilty that she left Ted with no choice but to go be with his sister for the holidays. It's not because she realized that there was some validity in the why Ted is so hurt and tries to comfort him as a result. No, the reason why she's there is because he did something for her, because he held the words she had told him years ago to heart, so that when Marshall was thinking of a gift for her, he guided Marshall into giving her the perfect Christmas gift. It was all still tied to her. Her adding the I did act like a bitch as an add-on at the end does not an apology make, because the core of Ted's anger to her is that not only had she lied to him about her disinterest in getting the milk, but she had also full on left without a word. And then words back in hoping to be accepted and forgiven, and things like that don't just go away. Instead, what they do is breed an inherent selfishness in the person, where they believe that their actions would ultimately be forgiven and everything would return to the way it was. And How I Met Your Mother never gives Lily that reality check, at least not right now. Maybe they do in future seasons, and that would make me so goddamn happy, should that be the case. But for right now, they don't. Instead, they keep finding ways to subtly hint at how Lily is right in all these things, even when her response is quite irrational. In Aldrin Justice, they do this by having Ted's decision to follow through on her urgings be what nets him the role as a project manager, even though that could have easily gone south. And also, most importantly, her philosophy of stealing from those she sees as being mean makes zero sense, but that is never really addressed. In How Lily Stole Christmas, we see clearly that Lily would do and sacrifice anything and anyone to prove that she is in the right. Because yes, Ted is the one who pissed her off, and like I said earlier, anger was a way to divert attention from the validity of his complaints and instead focus on the word that he had called her, which she didn't like. But what I kept getting stuck on was, why is it Marshall that is suffering from this? Like, if the show had stated clearly that Christmas as a holiday really mattered to Ted, and it is one he had been looking forward to for like forever, then I would understand Lily's decision to take away the decorations as a way to punish him. But that isn't the case. The one who loves Christmas is her fiancé. Lily's actions in the episode were not punishing Ted, but Marshall, who isn't the one who called her names. Why is the onus on his best friend to have to go to her apartment and inform her that he is going to stay with his cousin before she decided to put the decorations back at Marshall's? Decorations that her fiance loves and has been looking forward to. Like, it makes no sense to me. So if Ted had insisted on staying, she would have deprived Marshall, the man she claims to love, of the winter wonderland he had been dreaming of, all to make a point to Ted. Talk about cutting your nose to spite your face. Like, to me, the Friends, and by extension the show, just keep indulging in Lily's worst tendencies. And a part of me wonders if she would only keep getting worse, or who knows, if by some miracle she will stop being the most selfish character in her relationship with her friends. But then again, maybe that's just me. Maybe you don't agree with anything I've said and think I'm talking out of my ass. Or maybe you do agree with me and would like to add more to my thoughts. All of that is well and good. Please drop your thoughts in the comments. Like this video if you've watched this far and haven't done so yet. Share this if you want. Support me on Patreon if you can. If you can't, however, do consider checking out my other channels. One of them is my gaming channel and the other holds my ASMR content. I have both linked in the description bar if they sound like something you might be interested in. Whichever the case may be, however, I will see you on Monday with a new video. Until then, do remember, obsessing over the things you love, perfectly valid coping mechanism.